More Australians will soon be able to enter the property market as the federal government prepares to introduce its Help to Buy scheme into Parliament today.
Hey guys, just thought I'd put out a quick video on the Help to Buy scheme. I've been kind of negative towards it, I guess you could say, basically because it's the big daddy in housing schemes and it's going to push the property market higher. Whenever the next property market boom comes, we can all disagree on that, and everyone does. But I think we can all agree, once we get down to the bones of what this scheme is, if it gets implemented or when it gets implemented, it's going to push the market high just because of the mechanics of it.
With every state and territory government, our Help to Buy plan will commence next year nationwide.
Actually, this thing got announced ages ago when ScoMo got voted in. Let's see what actual updates there are. And lo and behold, Housing Australia, which has recently changed its name from NHFIC because National Housing Finance and Investment Corporation is hard for the average punter to get. They've done something which makes sense. Housing Australia found a release here from a week ago. They haven't even introduced the legislation yet for the Help to Buy scheme. So don't ask me what they've been doing in all of this time. I'm sure they're busy doing whatever politicians do with their time. Basically, this is it. Housing Australia notices federal government today has introduced legislation into the Commonwealth Parliament to establish the Help to Buy program, which will be administered by Housing Australia. The program has not commenced. More information will be provided once available. I want to note one thing here. The first thing which the NHFIC released was a scheme called the First Home Loan Deposit Scheme. And that was in 2020. So the First Home Loan Deposit Scheme is basically a home guarantee scheme. It's the same thing, they just changed the name, just like they changed the name of the thing to Housing Australia. But let's go to the government announcement. Let's dig into what we can see here. So Help to Buy will bring home ownership back into reach for 40,000 Australian households. Equity contribution of up to 40% for new homes and 30% for existing. We knew that. Home buyers will need a minimum of 2% deposit into the scheme. So what this means is, as opposed to the 5% deposit, which has always been with most of the other schemes, the average home buyer now only needs 2% of the purchase price. So if we want to use that example, 866 grand, the buyer only needs 2% of that. So that's 16 or 17 grand. The sheer leverage of that, I would say outstanding in a bad way. If this does get in, it's gonna blow the market off its head. There's gonna be a lot of greedy people out there that think that's good. It's not gonna be good. Firstly, the guys on the bottom, it's not gonna be good for them because they're not gonna get in. But a lot of people are gonna try and take advantage of this. Not the Help to Buy scheme, but they're going to try to get into property because they think it's going to boom. My warning is and still is that this decade, the only thing that's certain is uncertainty, and that's going to play out in interest rates. So people are going to take on debt, they're going to get greedy, they're going to borrow too much, and they're not going to realize it's too much until we get a swing in the interest rates, and we know they're volatile because of the last 3 years. My thing is that that's just going to continue, and it's going to exacerbate until things get to a position where, you know, the people taking the risk actually get hurt, because let's be honest, the last kind of 20, 30 years we've been in an environment where the risk taker's been rewarded and the risks have been ignored. So at the end of the day, it's going to be really bad, but 2%, it's going to blow it off its head. Before I get into the housing reform agenda and the other things on it, there's going to be a lot of people out there going, yeah, it's not in yet, and I agree. But if you look at how governments have supported these sorts of schemes, both at a federal and a state level, the past 20 years, and the fact that our economy, let's be honest, it's not looking too good. And everyone knows what makes an economy look good, house prices going up. I would say the probability that this will get passed through is pretty high. Okay, so let's look at the rest of the Albanese government's ambitious housing reform agenda. So there's a newly created $10 billion Housing Australia Future Fund. This is the new national target to build 1.2 million well-located homes. Good luck finding the builders to build those homes, because we've got a shortage already and the builders aren't there. There's a shortage in the houses, but there's a shortage in skills. Part of the reason why there's a shortage in skills is because governments at federal and state level have spent so much money, pumping money into the economy on infrastructure, 500 or 600% on 7 or 8 years ago. If you actually go have a look at the numbers, what this has done is it's pulled all of these skills out of the residential building market, because government funded projects are going to pay more. That's just reality, sorry. So the smaller scale builders, they get priced out of the market because all of these guys go to the employees that are paying more because they got government money, they've got better perks, they're probably unionized, they've got all these great working conditions. So good luck trying to find the skills out there to be able to build at the price you want it. Next, $3 billion new homes bonus. I don't even know what that is. I'll have to look into that. $2 billion social housing accelerator to deliver 4,000 new social homes across Australia. You know, that's a drop in the water. National Housing Accord, 10,000 affordable homes over 5 years. That's probably not even going to cover the refugee intake that we've got coming in from the wars. So insignificant. An investment of an additional $1 billion into housing infrastructure facility to support more homes. $575 million in funding already locked. I live in Victoria and we've gone through all of this crazy money spending. It gets to the point where the numbers, they don't even matter. Like, they all sound like big numbers. What does it actually mean and what effect does it actually have? And this is what concerns me, is that when you've got a volatile economy, yeah, the numbers sound like nothing. It's the whipsaws that hurt the little guys, because high interest rate environments, the little guys have to sell their assets. And in the low interest rate environments, people buy assets for nothing because they think they can get rich. Unfortunately, because things are volatile, they just turn around and a year or two later they have to sell those assets because they're in financial hardship again. So at the end of it, the little guy gets left with less assets, which means the rich people are holding more assets. Increased rent assistance by 15%. Again, a drop in the water. Rents have gone up, I think 20% in the last year or two. So it's not even clawing back what it's gone up. $2 billion for financing more social affordable renting housing through Housing Australia. Again, what does that mean? You're just throwing numbers at us. New incentives to boost supply of rental housing for investments in build to rent accommodation. I'd like to see what those incentives are. And again, you're requesting builders to create value where in the past the incentives haven't been given to the builder, they've been given to the investor, and the investor's been allowed to sit on their backside via negative gearing and think the value of their properties have gone up. So this doesn't say they're changing their tack and providing incentives to the guys that are creating value in the economy. It just feels like they're chucking the rod out. They're casting lures out and seeing what catches. 1.7 extension housing and homelessness agreement with the states and territories, the development of new housing and homeless plan. The thing which really gets me about the broader economic consequences of this announcement is they're just creating another $10 billion or however much it is, probably a lot more, and chucking it into the economy. Well, we've learnt from the last 3 or 4 years that actually, that just creates inflation. The cost of everything goes up. I don't understand how you can say it benefits people. It's all just smoke and mirrors. This is what governments are good at doing, creating a lot of money, saying, oh, we've come in and saved the day, we've put the fire out. Where actually, you're just lighting a bigger fire. I think whenever the next housing boom comes, it's going to be disastrous if things like this happen. Even if this doesn't get passed, other things will come in. We saw a couple of weeks ago, Queensland just all of a sudden doubled its first home buyer grant from 15,000 to 30,000. So it's inevitable for these things to come in because governments don't have any other solutions. The solution of actually sitting there and going, how do we create economic prosperity through actually promoting innovation and creating industry and creating things which we can sell to the rest of the world, which actually creates a good economy. No politicians are going to do that. They're thinking, how can we con the public into creating a lot of money and that'll fix the problem and then maybe we'll get voted in next time. This sort of thing, it's just a continuation, and what will end it is disaster and calamity. So part of how I'm thinking, I'm not saying that's the right way I'm thinking, that's the right way of thinking, because a lot of people come back at me and they're going, oh, you're a mortgage broker, you just think the market's going to go up. That's not actually the case. The reason you get cycles is because of debt. So you get peaks and you get troughs. People just don't understand that. If I keep saying there'll be a trough, I'll eventually be right. If I keep saying it'll boom, I'll eventually be right. So I just think if we're creating more money, we're creating debt. That's how money's created. It just means those cycles are pushed out and people aren't going to be ready for them. The little guy's not going to be ready for them. That's why I always say watch the debt. That's why I always say the only thing that's certain is uncertainty. So guys, I'll be providing updates on the Help to Buy scheme as it rolls through Parliament and as it's probably going to be implemented. So if you like the content, please subscribe. Love to hear your comments down below. Cheers.